Now, on to our first award tonight, which is the News Award, and that's sponsored by Google News Initiative. This award recognises the work of freelance journalists in the video coverage of a news event where the focus is on the immediacy of the story. All entries must have been broadcast by a recognised television channel, broadcaster, news agency, streaming or online news platform. This year, the judges found it especially hard to decide on the final three, and so would like to make a special commendation to three journalists. Alexander Yermachenko and Pavel Klimov from Ukraine and Sergei Pivovarov from Russia for their entry, One Day in Rostov, the Prigozhin insurgents in Rostov, commissioned by Reuters for its extraordinary impact throughout the world. Well done, Alexander, Pavel, and Sergei. Now let's have a look at our finalists for this award. First is Peruvian freelance journalist Guillermo Galdos for Cooking for the Cartel inside Mexico's secret fentanyl labs, where he stepped inside the world of one of the most dangerous drug cartels in the world. Let's hear what the judges thought about it and see a clip of the film.
This is Culiacán, capital of Sinaloa state and stronghold of one of the world's most powerful drug cartels. Murders happen here daily, the ultimate penalty for upsetting the cartel. But right now, it's deaths over the border in America which are getting all the attention.
What impressed me most about this piece was the access. And his shots were beautiful and every shot told a story, but you were, as a journalist, blown away by the absolute access he had to all aspects of that story.
We're driving towards the mountains of Sinaloa. This is cartel land. It's an area controlled by the sons of El Chapo Guzman. And after days of talking to a person close to the cartel, we've been granted permission to film inside a fentanyl lab.
And he's not the only person that's done the fentanyl story. He's the only journalist I've ever seen that has had that kind of access.
Guillermo's piece on the fentanyl labs really highlighted that challenge between people who need to make a living and a drug trade that kills people, the responsibility that on the individual, he really highlighted that, and I think anyone watching it would understand all of the sides of that story.
I think this piece was a wonderful example of storytelling from start to finish. I think, it kept me up at night. I, woke up thinking about these facts about fentanyl and how dangerous this drug is and what it's doing to people.
Cooking fentanyl is now the most lucrative career for many young Sinaloan men. They hide their exact formula from me in case I try to steal it.
So it's obviously, if you're in Mexico, that's a story that you want to get. Only very few filmmakers manage to get it. He told that story incredibly well. He tells it with colour. It's bookended by this wonderful music. The access is extraordinary, the filmmaking is extraordinary. It's just a brilliant piece of work.
That's a really mesmerising film. Now, our next news finalist is not one but four freelancers: Gael Borgia, Judea Ongiamas, Jeremy Martin and Caroline Brenier for their film Hunger-Stricken Families in Madagascar Forced to Sell Children. A very different kind of climate change story from a part of the world we don't often hear about. Let's see a clip from that film.
It's a long and difficult trip to reach the remote, famine-stricken villages of southeast Madagascar. The Batsirai and Emnati cyclones last year and Cyclone Shiniso this year damaged roads and cut off residents.
Almost as a child, you remember those shots, don't you, when it's green and lush. You're absolutely right. And this was just completely covered in water. So I think this is a really good way of drawing people's attention, not just to the poverty and all the rest that's happening, but that climate change affects that part of the world as well.
With humanitarian aid slow to arrive and inflation driving up prices, several 100,000 people in this fertile region have been plunged into an unprecedented famine.
This was such an original piece of storytelling, and they clearly had to dig very hard to find those families who could talk about the fact that people were selling their children because of hunger. It's really difficult to get to that part of Madagascar journey that these four had made to get up there. And it was a story that authorities didn't want told, and yet they managed to dig and they managed to tell it.
This one I watched several times, and every time I watched it, I just thought of another aspect of how did this team get this material? What did it take to get in just to be able to tell the story? And once they did get in, it was so well shot. You really, felt that these people were living in such poor conditions. And they just really told the story well. It was well shot, it was well edited, and it was a great piece of journalism.
This piece was really difficult to put together. It was in a very remote part of Madagascar, but on top of that, it had also suffered severe flooding. So the team had to make an enormous effort to go and meet with this local community that had been impacted by the floodings and who had been so severely impacted by the famine. And it is very important, when we look at the entries for the Rory Peck, that we recognize how difficult it is to go and shine a light on communities that don't have a voice.
Finally, the third finalist is Omar Hajkadur from Syria, with his entry, Syrian Earthquake, taking us back to those horrific days in February of this year. Let's have a look at what the judges thought and see some of his extraordinary footage.
This one made my shortlist because it was beautifully shot. There was a variety of shots. We really saw the devastation. We saw people going about their everyday life while, others were frantically trying to rescue people from rubble. But then if you also think about the backstory of this cameraman who left his own family as soon as this earthquake happened, wasn't sure if everyone was okay or alive, and immediately went to work because he knew there was a story to be told. He dealt with a lot of challenges in terms of getting the material out, no electricity. I just think that was so brave to kind of put aside, everything personal and just focus on making sure the story is told.
He had a brilliant eye for detail. He really did have a very good eye for detail. Yes, the shots of the children's toes, the people holding hands, all that is just, absolute perfection when it comes to camera work, and it's what you look for, and again tells the story without a script.
I think because there was such an incredible range of locations which really told the story, from the incredibly painful scenes in the hospital of children in such pain. These were miserable scenes where the filmmaker focused and stayed with them, and it was just heart-wrenching to watch.
It was really the pictures of the children in hospital that was the most striking and really highlighted the violence of this moment on completely innocent children, and it was very powerfully conveyed by Omar.
Really harrowing, but such important work from all three finalists in this category. Now, to tell us who has won the News Award, sponsored by the Google News Initiative, please welcome to the stage Head of Google News Lab, Matt Cook.
Thank you. It is a privilege to be here and on behalf of the Google News Initiative to support the Rory Peck Trust and the important work they do, not just tonight, but throughout the year. Congratulations to all of the finalists, and without further ado, I shall announce the winner of the News Award. Okay, the winner of the 2023 Rory Peck News Award is Gael Borgia, Jedea Onjeamas, Jeremy Martin, and Caroline Grenier for their film Hunger-Stricken Families in Madagascar to Sell Children. Please give a warm welcome now to Jeremy, Gael, and Caroline. Please come to the stage.
Wow, thank you very much. When our report was selected as a finalist for this award, we were extremely happy because it meant that the weeks we spent as a team, working in the rain, in the heat, navigating one of the most remote places in Madagascar, searching for the truth from village to village when the government was doing anything it could to hide it, it meant that all of that was recognized. But beyond that, it meant that the Rory Peck Trust, that the judges of the Rory Peck, that people working in the media around the globe care about what's happening to the people in Madagascar. And for that, I am profoundly grateful. Since our report, the situation has improved in the Congo region. It's getting better, but the country in Madagascar is really on the front line of food insecurity and corruption. So please, keep an eye on Madagascar, especially as the presidential elections are coming up, and we'll make sure to bring you more stories. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Madagascar is infamous in the Western world as one of the poorest countries on Earth. The living conditions in most of the country would shock most of you here tonight, certainly in comparison to what we all take for granted. A reliable power grid, running potable water, affordable health care. As I've gotten to know it, I've come to see Madagascar as a country of great paradox and contrast. It has luxuriant rainforests, fertile, arable volcanic earth, vast reserves of mineral wealth, all the resources that form the foundation of a vibrant national economy. But most people that call the island home have not benefited from these resources. And to address the structural poverty, millions of dollars and euros flow into the country each year, but there are many siphons in what is already a porous bucket. Thank you for supporting our report, which conveys the struggles of some of the world's most resilient, tough, and courageous people. Please continue to pay attention to Madagascar. Socha Betsaka. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. We were asked to prepare something to say, but I didn't. What I want to say is that it was the most difficult report in my life. So thank you so much. I walked for days and days in the forest under heavy rains of the cyclone Cheneso. It was so hard. At some point, I couldn't see in front of me because it was raining so much. We didn't know where we would sleep at night. We went from villages to get testimonies, and it took me 12 days to have the first testimony of someone who saw a mother who came to her to sell her child. It took me 12 days for one testimony because of the government censorship in Madagascar. The message I want to pass on is that, of course, there's going to be more cyclones, more extreme weathers because of climate change. But climate change is just an aggravating factor of the famine. The famine is criminal. You have to know that some leaders are greedy and they don't have effective policies and they don't care about those people. So you, international media, international community, you have to know that this is a political famine. This is a criminal famine because of underdevelopment, because of lack of infrastructure. We went to a region where roads were damaged because of the cyclone. People lost their harvest, and can you imagine people who cannot even eat a grain of rice for days? It's very difficult to talk to a journalist, to say you need help, to say you're desperate, to say you cannot feed your child. That's what we saw. And those people have dignity because they tell the story. It's dangerous. They can be in trouble with the government, and they tell such a difficult story with dignity, without crying. And that's why I do this work. And I'm very, very happy that this report moved the judges. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you all. Now, as we all know, every one of the finalists deserves recognition. So as part of a long-standing tradition here at the Rory Peck Awards, we now invite the other shortlisted finalists to say a few words. They too were selected out of hundreds of entries, which is an incredible achievement. So now please welcome to the stage Guillermo for his film Cooking for the Cartel.
Hi, thank you very much for the nomination. I really want to thank Fede, Esme, Michael French, the Channel 4 News team. And why I think this is important for Mexico, because in the last decade, nearly a bit more actually than 100 journalists have been killed in Mexico. And they are killed like 2 a month, and we don't know about it. And actually with that piece, I was on holiday with my family when a friend called me and told me that the Mexican president was talking about me in the program in the morning, was talking about the piece, because they were denying that they were cooking fentanyl. They were blaming the Chinese, and obviously the Chinese, they supply the precursors to cook fentanyl. But, the government being in bed with the cartels and us showing that clearly, and that the effect of that was hundreds of thousands of people dying in the US. I thought it was a very important piece to do, and I'm very glad that Channel 4 News gave me the space to do that. And this nomination is dedicated to Javier Valdez, a really good friend of mine. Thank you.
Sadly, our other finalist, Omar Haj Kadur, could not make it to the UK to join us this evening. Instead, he has sent us this message.
ببلد ممزق بيشهد حالة حرب من أكثر من 12 سنة بتكون الصعوبات والتحديات كبيرة بتتغير وبتزداد مع مرور الوقت، وبيكون الخوف عايش فينا ومعنا بكل لحظة وبكل يوم. الخوف من القصف والمعارك والنزوح، والخوف الأعظم من خسارة أشخاص بحبهم. طبعا الدافع يلي خلاني استمر هو الرغبة والشغف وشخصيتي، ونشأتي على حب التصوير وحب مساعدة الناس، ولما بيجتمعوا الأمرين مع بعض بتتضاعف الإرادة والحب أكيد، إضافة لكلمات الناس البسيطة مثل أنت صوتنا، وهاي الكلمة يلي بسمعها على طول تلامسني من جوا أعماقي. طبعا أنا سعيد جدا أني توصلت للقائمة النهائي للمرشحين بنيل جائزة روري بيك العريقة، وبتمنى لكل زملاء المصورين التوفيق بالمرحلة النهائية. طبعا حابب اتشكر القائمين على مهرجان روري بيك، هالمهرجان اللي بشكل فرصة عظيمة للتعرف على زملاء نزروا حياتهم من أجل مهنتهم ومستعدين يضحوا بكل شيء ليعكسوا الواقع اللي عم يعيشوه أو عم يتابعوه. طبعا حابب كمان استغل الفرصة لأشكر زملائي بوكالة الصحافة الفرنسي يلي كانوا الداعم الرئيسي بالنسبة لي على مدار الساعة. بالإضافة حابب أتشكر زوجتي وأطفالي وأهلي يلي وقفوا جنبي ورغم كل أوقات الضغط الطويل وغياب المستمر عن البيت. اليوم ما فيني غير أطلب الرحمة من جديد لضحايا الزلزال والصبر لذويهم. صراحة عشنا لحظات كتير صعبة وكانت قاسية، لحظات عصيبة وكارثية ما ممكن انساها أبدا أبدا. بلحظات قليلة فقدنا آلاف الناس والأشخاص اللي بنعرفهم وبنحبهم وبنحاولنا. عندي أقارب وأصدقاء كانوا تحت الأنقاض ما معروف مصيرهم، طلب مني الأمر طبعا تركيز عالي للتعامل مع الناس ونقل صورة مأساوية عم تشهدها منطقتي. خسرت بكارثة الزلزال بعض من أقاربي وصديقي المقرب المخرج يمان خطيب الله يرحمه. هالأمر أثر علي كتير، وأكثر من مرة أثناء تصويري سالت دموعي، ورغم أنه كنت خلف الكاميرا لكن حاولت من خلال الصور والفيديو أعبر عن هالوجع والحزن العميقين اللي جواتي. مجرد اختياري طبعا من بين المرشحين للفوز بهالجائزة الكبيرة بشكل بالنسبة لي فوز بحد ذاته. كثير بيعني لي طبعا قوم معكم اليوم، وهالأمر مصدر فخر لا متناهي وبيحفزني استمر وابذل جهد أكبر لحتى استمر بتوثيق يوميات الحرب اللي عم نعيشها وما زالت مستمرة. كنت بتمنى أكون معكم طبعا شخصيا، لكن ظروف السفر المرتبطة بظروف الحرب يلي عشناها ويلي عم نعيشها كانت أيضا قاسية علي المرة الثانية بحياتي. أنه أكون معكم اليوم لو عبر الشاشة هو حلم وبعتبره إنجاز كثير كبير. طبعا شكرا من القلب، وبتمنى أنه يوما ما أقدر أكون معكم موجود بالقاعة بمهرجان روري بيك.
Now, on behalf of Omar, one of his colleagues from AFP would like to come up on stage to say a few words. I think we have a representative from AFP. Excellent.
Hello, so I didn't know I had to come and say something, so I didn't prepare either. But maybe I think Omar's video speaks for itself about the very kind person he is. He started to work as a journalist in Idlib at the beginning of the Syrian civil war, and he's been there covering very difficult events all during all those 12 or 13 years. So I think it's really important that his work can be shown here. And important also that he's part of a team of journalists having a really difficult time in the Middle East right now with current coverage. So I want also to extend my thoughts to all the journalists working there, whether staff or freelancers, in those really difficult conditions.
Thanks for that. Many congratulations to all the News Award finalists, and a big thank you to Matt Cook from the Google News Initiative for their continued support.